Well, we'd like to welcome you today to NATP's Taxes Today. We're going to talk about some latest ERC updates, the Employee Retention Credit. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tom Mulsaban. I'm an enrolled agent. I'm the Director of Tax Content and Government Relations here at NATP. I've also been a tax practitioner for more than 30 years, so as I often say in these sessions, I really feel your pain. So let's get into this discussion of why we want to talk about ERC. And what I don't want to have as a takeaway in this session is that I'm not here to criticize ERC claims or to throw out stones at those who are filing claims, but rather what I want to do is to give you some more information as tax professionals so that you can adequately advise your clients and then also update you on actions that the IRS has taken. So let's talk about ERC in just a real 10,000 foot level. The idea there is think about what it's called, Employee Retention Credit, Employee Retention Credit. So a business kept employees even in a circumstance where it may have been tough to do so. Now, a little bit of background that I don't have on the slide. That is, these provisions are normally the result of a federally declared disaster area. So ERC is not a brand new concept, but it's a newer concept to all of us because what happened with COVID-19? The COVID-19 pandemic was a federally declared disaster, but guess what? For the whole country. So with that there, we had the Employee Retention Credit. And I say here that in the simplest situations, without going into code section, this is something to have a conversation with your client about. Did your client who was impacted by COVID-19 continue to pay their employees during the COVID-19 pandemic, even though, and think about this, did their sales decline? Were they forced to shut the business down even temporarily? Again, did they retain their employees? Now, I want to introduce you to a completely new mindset at the IRS, which I think is really positive. On behalf of you, our members, and the tax professional community and taxpayers, small businesses everywhere, our group met with the IRS in June of this year at one of the National Public Liaison meetings, and we had a conversation about the processing of ERC claims in the fear that maybe not everyone who's applying has an accurate claim. And we actually made the suggestion to the IRS, why don't you come out with a worksheet, a questionnaire for taxpayers to answer before a claim is filed, rather than play audit roulette to see if maybe something's going to happen later on. The IRS come back and conclude this was not a good claim, and therefore we want the money back. And guess what else they want? They want interest and penalties, and God forbid that they think that this was an improper claim and maybe rise to the level of fraud. So I have to commend the IRS in September of this year when they actually came out with a worksheet along with a number of announcements that we're going to be talking about throughout this update. So they have a worksheet, an eligibility checklist. Bravo to the IRS, because what this is going to do for a lot of you out there as practitioners, and I want to kind of set this stage also in this conversation, in that you might be in a position where you had nothing to do with the filing of the ERC claim, and your client is now telling you they received ERC money, and you're very nervous about that fact. Well, given that the IRS has now created a worksheet, you can have this conversation with your client about whether or not it is a proper claim or is it in a gray area. Because I'm going to tell you, even though you didn't file the claim perhaps for your client, you in fact could be a responsible party to an ERC claim. So gave you the link here, the Employee Retention Credit. You can copy this, go to the website, and in fact there is an Employee Retention Credit eligibility worksheet that the IRS just came out with. So one of the questions it asks is kind of going back to my very first statement that I made. Did you have employees and pay wages to them between March 2020 and December 31st, 2021? If that's the case, then move on.